My name is Olivia Hart, and this is the story of the worst decision I ever made. 10 years ago, if someone had told me that I would break the heart of the only man who truly loved me, I would have laughed. But life in a modern city changes people, especially when dreams become bigger than love. I met Ethan Miller during my last year of university. He wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. But he had the kindest heart I had ever known. We lived together in a tiny apartment on the edge of the city. The rent was cheap. The walls were thin. But we were happy. Every morning Ethan woke before me. He made coffee and toast. Sometimes he left little notes beside my cup. "You're going to do amazing things today." Those small notes made my heart warm. Back then I believed love was enough. But dreams can grow louder than love. And slowly, my dreams began to change me. The company where I worked was located in the center of the city. Tall glass buildings. Luxury cars outside. People dressed in expensive suits. Every day I watched successful people walk through the lobby. They looked confident, powerful, untouchable. I wanted to be like them. I wanted a bigger life than our small apartment. Ethan worked as a graphic designer. He loved what he did, but the salary was small. Sometimes when I looked at our bank account, fear crept into my heart. What if we stayed poor forever? What if love wasn't enough to build a future? One evening while we ate dinner, I asked Ethan, "Do you ever think about becoming more successful?" He smiled gently. "I already feel successful." I frowned. "How?" He reached across the table and held my hand. "Because I have you." I smiled back. But inside, something felt unsettled. I met Adrian Blake at a company event. He was the CEO of a partner company. Tall, confident, wealthy. He wore a watch that probably cost more than my yearly salary. When he spoke to people, they listened. When he walked into a room, everyone noticed. That night we talked for nearly an hour. Adrian asked about my ambitions, my career, my dreams. "You're too smart to stay where you are," he said. Those words stayed in my mind for days. No one had ever said that to me before. Not even Ethan. A week later Adrian invited me for coffee. Then dinner. Then more meetings. At first it was professional. But slowly something else began to grow. And I didn't stop it. One night Ethan asked me a simple question. "Why are you coming home so late lately?" I hesitated. "Work projects." It was my first lie. And lies are dangerous. Because once you say one, the next becomes easier. Soon I was meeting Adrian twice a week. He showed me a different world. Luxury restaurants, rooftop bars, expensive hotels. One evening we stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Adrian said quietly, "You deserve a bigger life than the one you have." I knew what he meant. And the terrible truth was, part of me believed him. The night everything changed was raining. Adrian and I had finished dinner at a high-end restaurant. My phone buzzed. It was Ethan. "Are you coming home soon?" I stared at the message. Adrian noticed. "Boyfriend." I nodded. Adrian looked at me for a moment. Then he said something that made my heart race. "You know you could have a very different future." I didn't answer. But I didn't leave either. That night I kissed Adrian. And in that moment, I crossed a line that could never be undone. For months I lived two separate lives. With Ethan, I was the loving girlfriend. We watched movies. We cooked dinner. We laughed. But with Adrian, I was someone else. Ambitious. Exciting. Powerful. He promised opportunities. Promotions. Connections. A faster path to success. Every time I returned to the small apartment, guilt filled my chest. But I pushed the feeling away. I told myself I was doing this for my future. For a better life. For security. But deep down I knew the truth. I was betraying the one person who trusted me completely. The truth came out in the simplest way. One evening Ethan borrowed my laptop. "I need to send a file," he said. I nodded casually. But my heart froze. Because I had forgotten something. My messages with Adrian were still open. From the kitchen, I heard silence. Then Ethan called my name. Olivia. His voice sounded strange. When I walked into the room, he was staring at the screen. His face looked pale. What is this? I couldn't speak. The evidence was right there. Every message. Every promise. Every betrayal. Ethan looked at me with eyes full of pain. How long? 6 months, I whispered. He closed his eyes. Why? I tried to explain. It's about my future, my career, my life. Ethan stared at me as if he didn't recognize the person in front of him. So you cheated on me for success? Tears filled my eyes. I thought it would help us both. He shook his head slowly. No, Olivia. His voice broke. You did it for yourself. That truth hurt more than any accusation. Ethan packed his bag that same night. I watched silently. Each piece of clothing felt like another piece of my heart disappearing. Before leaving, he looked at me one last time. I loved you with everything I had. I cried openly now. I know. He picked up his bag. But love should never have to compete with ambition. Then he walked out the door. And the silence that followed was louder than any argument. 6 months later, my career had improved. Adrian helped me get a higher position. I moved into a better apartment. I wore expensive clothes. I attended exclusive events. From the outside, my life looked perfect. But every night when I returned home, the apartment felt empty. Because success doesn't hug you. Success doesn't laugh with you. Success doesn't love you. And Adrian, he was never truly mine. One day he simply told me, I'm moving to another country for business. Just like that. No promises. No future. A year after Ethan left, I saw him again by accident. He was walking through the city park. And beside him was another woman. They were laughing. Happy. Peaceful. Ethan looked healthier. Stronger. Like someone who had moved on. For a moment our eyes met. He nodded politely. Just a small gesture. No anger. No love. Just distance. And that hurt more than anything. Because I realized something painful. The man who once loved me more than anything had become a stranger. Today I still live in the same city. I have the career I once dreamed of. But sometimes late at night I remember our tiny apartment. The cheap coffee. The little notes Ethan used to leave for me. And I wonder what my life would have been like if I had chosen love instead of ambition. Some choices shape your future. But some choices break your past. And the hardest truth I learned is this. You can rebuild success. You can rebuild a career. But sometimes, you can never rebuild the heart you broke.